This movement we're about to cover is used in some of our online programs. It's called the Straddle lift. It translates into improving your active hip flexion in a really tight range and your hamstring length, which obviously transfers into improvements in gymnastics and things like toes to bar, or anytime you need to pull your legs up straight, like the beginning of a muscle up. But it also just transfers into general joint health for stabilizing your back in something like a snatch, where you get deep into the squat and your knees are above your hips. So I'm gonna demo some movements, and then I'm gonna show you some regressions to make the movement a little bit more attainable for you. So some points of performance: you're gonna be sitting in a straddle with your legs out wide. A lot of people, when they're in this position, will generally wanna pull their toes up into dorsiflexion, but you wanna try to tighten your quad all the way down into and point your toes. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna walk your hands forward as comfortable as you can, reach, lean forward, and then you're gonna lift up from your legs. When you do that, you're gonna get some pretty crampy sensations in here. It's okay, you gotta kind of try to get used to that and get comfortable breathing through that tension. So each lift will just basically be lift up with a tiny pause, back down to the ground and lift up. And you wanna try to create that motion from your hip flexor as opposed to really leaning and bending from the lower back to try to get up. So if I were here, I could easily kind of just roll myself backwards like that, where I'm not really lifting up from my hip flexors. But you want to stay nice and stable and tighten your midline and really try to control the range just from your hip flexors. So that's 1, 2, 3. Now, if that movement's uncomfortable for you, I'm gonna have Mike come in and demo. Mike's a little bit tighter and stiffer in those positions. So to create some regressions first, I'd have him sit on something elevated. So this will give his hips a little bit more room and the same points of performance. So I have him keep his toes pointed, his quads locked, and lift from there. Once he gets that motion a little bit more comfortable, he can walk himself forward in that still butt elevated position. And you can see he's having a little bit more difficult there. So this would probably be the appropriate progression or regression for Mike. Once he gets that dialed in, he would reach his hands forward and then eventually come off of that plate, and that would be the progression for him to be able to do the straddle up on the floor.